this housing affordability is a massive political issue in the US, probably even more than here, I would argue. And Trump's determined to do something about it, right?
I think you're definitely correct that it's a bigger issue over there. And if you look at the way house prices have moved in the US versus the UK, we've had a big adjustment in real terms after inflation since 2022. Liz Truss, etc., sort of sparked all that off. So whilst house prices haven't fallen, they've gone down maybe 15% after inflation. That's not happened in the US, right? We've seen a huge I mean, on the longer term amplitudes, the US market looks badly overpriced without looking too closely. Then you start to peel back the onion and see what's going on. And of course, they've economic growth, significant economic growth as well, which can fuel a housing market as well. But this is really interesting. And this is classic Trump. I fancy doing something. I'm going to go about it in a whole multitude of different ways. And I'm either going to get actual results, which I quite like, of course, or brilliant sound bites and look like I'm, in this case, a man of the people. And I do think that at the core of this, he really does want to help the average American get on the housing ladder. Now, pouring petrol on a fire, if the US housing market is in a bubble, is perhaps not overly helpful. But the number one predictor, and a lot of people don't know this, by some way, the number one predictor of how house prices are going to develop is the availability and the price of credit, right? So when you have a credit expansion, which effectively this would be, so we can get deposits from other places. So how do you expand credit? You either lend on bigger multiples of income, you lend to people with no income, no job, etc., etc. We know what happened when that one happened. You lend to people who can self-certify their figures. That doesn't work out so well either, right? Or you let them get more money from places. That place is either banks in those situations, or if they've got it themselves in pensions, then that bridges the gap of the deposit. So for what it's worth, I think a lot of the rhetoric and the data's pretty weak, certainly in the UK, around how much of a blocker or not the deposit is to first-time buyers. But what we do know is if people can find it and borrow it, they will use it on buying houses, because first-time buyers are highly motivated, Duncan. They want to get on the ladder and they'll do whatever it takes to do that. So it does look like, again, quite a thoughtful move, actually, that will certainly move the needle in terms of how many people can transact. Will it have a damaging impact on prices in the medium term when they're arguably already overvalued?